Welcome to the Health Check with Dr. Bagat and Baby Z. Morning, Dr. B.
I really think you're in the wrong profession. You need to be full-time in the studio singing.
Dr. V, that's my dream. I kid you not. This is all I want to do every day, be in the studio singing. That's me.
Yeah, follow your passion. The rest will follow.
I will. How are you this morning, doctor?
We're good. We're just, like I said, it's roasting and toasting out there. We need some rain.
Yes, and we're going to pray for that rain. I hope it comes falling down.
Indeed. Today we're going to be talking about, I decided to start the year with some of the most frequent questions. And actually, one of the most frequent questions we have, Sue, is, Naka, why are you always talking about the same diseases? And then the reason why I'm talking about the same diseases is because they are so important. And the reason why and where I get these ideas from, Sue, is actually what is called the Global Burden of Disease Study. This is a study that is conducted by the World Health Organization, and every year it sort of updates to say what are the leading causes of death globally, and then we go through those because people need to be aware of them, even though they think, we're just talking about the same old stuff again. Because people don't listen, and it seems the ones that are on the top of the, if you like, the top five, and I'll mention some of them, are still there because people don't take care and attention to these diseases. So in 2022, the leading causes of death globally, according to the World Health Organization, number 1 is heart disease. Number 2 is stroke. Number 3 is diabetes. Number 4 is lung cancer. Number 5 is Alzheimer's and dementia. Number 6 is kidney disease. And, nowhere on that list do you hear about malaria or tuberculosis or HIV or, a running stomach and diarrhea. Yes, they're important, but let's get things in perspective. Yes, we're not saying that malaria and TB and HIV are not important, but if you want to look at the global, and, we're part of the globe, we're part of that index, and so the leading causes of death in our part of the world are those diseases, and if we just look at the first 3, which is heart disease, stroke, which is basically a cousin to blood pressure, to heart disease, and number 3, diabetes. All these 3 conditions are related to lifestyle.
Yes.
It's what you do with your plate and your knife and fork. It's what you do or not do in terms of exercise. It's what happens is if you eat the wrong foods, if you don't exercise, if you get stressed out, if you don't know how to manage your stress, these are the things that happen. And the problem with these conditions, as sexy as they are not, is we are developing them at rapid rates, and we see it. We look at our children and they're becoming more and more obese. We look at some of them out there, and the conditions that they're developing, we actually estimate that our children are probably not going to live the lifespan that we live because they're going to develop the diseases much earlier, and they're starting earlier in terms of misbehavior. And you look at them and the lack of exercise and what they're getting at the tuck shops and the simausus.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Honestly, what's in the shelves at their eye level. Nothing has changed in our genes or our biology in the last 100 years. But if you look at some of the photos of people, even 50 or 60 years ago, you'd rarely pick out somebody who was obese. You look at some of the photos of the people in the 1960s, 1970s.
They're all slim.
Yeah, they didn't go to gyms. They didn't go, workouts. They didn't have all these fancy gadgets and things you put on your, those things that you measure all things on your, what do they call those? Health check things that you put on like a watch. They didn't have any of those things, and they ate, but what they ate was the right thing. So the bottom line with the first 3 diseases listed by the World Health Organization, Sue, is actually all lifestyle related. And what happens with lifestyle and all these 3 conditions, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, all result in inflammation of the body. So when you eat the wrong foods, what happens is the body becomes inflamed. And if you look at somebody who's died of a heart attack or who's died of a stroke, or you look at a diabetic and you look at their blood circulation, the circulation is inflamed. It's on fire because what happens is the food that we're eating, and we've talked about this again and again, and people are tired, I know, but we need to get them to understand that these things cause inflammation. This bread and rice and pasta and palichi and fresh chips and fizzy drinks and fruit juice and, madombi and maguinia and papata and all the stuff that we're packing away is actually causing us doom and gloom in the future. And the problem is, it's not like COVID, where you get COVID, you have flu. flu. You get malaria, you know you've got a fever. These things are silent killers, and they gradually build up in the system. And we're looking at our kids and we're thinking, you know what, we're poisoning our population, and they don't appreciate it at the moment. So this is the reason we're talking about these things, because people really need to wake up and smell the coffee, because they're really doing themselves harm. And of course, one of the problems we talked about last year is that we are facing the battle with the multi-million, billion, trillion food industry and alcohol industry, which doesn't make it easier for the poor public there who are not educated in biology, in nutrition, to know that what they're actually putting on their plate is actually junk. You know, they sell it off as something that's healthy and nutritious. You know, you can see all the billboards, they're nicely hung and, you know, only grilled.
They all look good, yeah.
It's all garbage. And you know, it's the food industry is powerful, it's noxious. You know, they're the ones that, you know, 40, 50 years ago were advertising that doctors smoke Camel cigarettes because they're better or something.
They're better. I know that. I know that ad.
Yeah. So you know, be careful of the food industry. You know, the sort of the low fat or the low alcohol or the sugar free. All these things are just a way to entice you to eat garbage. You know, and we said it last year, and I'll say it again. The closer you eat to nature, the better it is. The closer the food is to the soil, the healthier it is, because it actually is not processed. But the moment so you know, eating your manoko rather than eating peanut butter, eating the fruit rather than the fruit juice. So go closer to the soil, go closer to the sun. You know, then it's untarnished and manufactured and processed. Because what goes on in those factories, you'll be horrified when you look at how they process some of the artificial oils that we look on our counters that look golden, you know, golden yellow and look enticing, but they're actually processed oils which are really high in inflammation and cause inflammation of the body. So we're going to be talking in the next couple of weeks about some of these diseases, which we've talked about again, but let's just wake up. And that resolution is, you know, I'm going to eat right, I'm going to sleep right, I'm going to do a bit of exercise, I'm going to be disciplined, I'm going to do a little bit of fasting. You know, I'm going to try and resist some of these temptations, because, you know, there is something called a bliss point, which the food industry uses, and the bliss point we discovered by chance. And what the food industry does is it tries to work out what is the point where exactly the right amount of sugar and salt, when it hits the tongue, you actually feel fantastic. And it's called a bliss point. And they work out this point for, you know, a certain flavor of crisps or a certain sauce.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the reason why our kids won't relish, you know, an apple or a pear or a peach, because compared to the bliss point of some of the sweets and the fizzy drinks, it tastes bland, or it drinks bland, you know. And they'll say, I don't like water, because, you know, the taste buds are so used to this massive explosion in your mouth, whether it's some of the garbage that is being sold as corn kernels. I don't know what that red stuff is that the kids are eating from these, you know, this sort of, I don't know,
it's chips, yeah. It's like jiggies and it's go slows. Like, I know it's like artificial. There's this thing that my brother used to go through, tetrazine. I know that they put a lot of like that kind of flavor onto the foods and stuff.
Absolutely, and the reason why they put all that stuff is it stays on the shelf longer. So the more preservatives like tartrazine, like sodium benzoate, the longer the shelf life. So the longer you can sell it. You know, a banana goes off because it's alive. You know, a fruit goes off and rots because it's alive. If something doesn't rot, then you get suspicious. You know, a biscuit doesn't rot. The Oreo biscuits don't rot because they're so full of chemicals and noxious stuff that it can last for a long time. The same with some of the breads that we have today. If you look, it's just not boroto. It's got lots of other stuff in it. If bread, for example, becomes hard overnight, the reason why it becomes hard is because it's got preservatives in it. So these are the things that the food industry is doing. You know, when I used to work in the United Kingdom for the British Consumer Society, we actually worked out that they even have ways to the crinkliness and that, you know, when you open a packet of crisps, it has that sort of that noise that it makes.
Yes.
They actually even worked that out, Zoo.
Dr. V, this is too serious.
I'm telling you, the fizzy drink industry, when you open that can and it goes
Yeah, the carbonated stuff.
That's an industry-inspired idea, because then you associate it with refreshment.
Wow.
Absolutely. This is how clever the industry is. So, if you want to move away from all that, move away from things that are boxed and things that are bottled and go towards the soil. And then, now with the initiative within our country to push Botswana and grow Botswana, go out there and grow your stuff, whether it's your herbs or your veggies.
Yes.
Honestly, you know what you're eating, because today things are full of pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and insecticides, and you don't know what you're consuming. So really, these things are the cornerstone of the 3 leading causes of death worldwide. And heart disease, stroke, diabetes are all things that we can do something about. And, one degree at a time, like we said yesterday, you just do it slowly. If you cheat, stand up again. We're going to be tempted. There are going to be people that invite you. You can't say no, and you don't want to be impolite to say, you know what, don't invite Zuziwe because you broccoli,
Yeah.
But make sure you're careful about what you put on in your shopping basket. If you can't spell the name of the chemicals in the food, don't buy. So these are the things and this is the reason why we go through these things again and again, that hopefully 1% of our listenership there will actually say, you know what, this thing is really important because this is what we're doing. And people say, Naka, it's expensive to eat healthy. It's not. Disease is if you don't eat well today, the disease you're going to develop is going to be far more expensive
in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, a penny is worth of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So this is the basis of the burden of disease and the global burden of disease. So we're not just talking off the top of our head. We're talking about the WHO releases of the 10 threats to global health. And not even one bit of COVID or malaria or TB is in there. They are important. But look at the big global diseases that are affecting us. And we know on our continent, we talked about this last year, that Africa is going to be set with the biggest burden because we are rapidly urbanizing and industrializing. We're moving from the cattle post to the car, and we're forgetting what our ancestors and our elderly age. Honestly, this is it. Our kids don't want to eat mabele and lebelebele. They don't want to eat dinawa.
They don't even want to go to Masimo.
Nothing, So these are really things that, and it looks like you've arrived in society if you can go, for a Nando's or for a KFC. It's actually the reverse. You've actually not arrived. You've gone backwards. So listen and prick up your ears, our dear listeners. We're going to be talking about these things again and hopefully spin a new light on it. Next week, we're going to be talking about the top one, which is heart disease, and that includes blood pressure and stroke and heart attack and heart failure and why they occur and what the basis of this is in terms of prevention.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, Dr. B, and I will keep reminding myself, my brothers, everybody, that we really do have to go back, like you're saying, to nature and nurturing our bodies. I think this is very, very important.
We've got to be our own doctors, Zoo.
Yes.
And it's just, we get lazy and we get used to eating that packet of crisps and a Coke and that palachi is easy to cook, Don't go for convenience because you pay the price.
Definitely. Okay, Dr. B, I can't wait to talk to you next week.
See you next week. Okay.
All right. And that's Dr. B and Baby Z shutting down the health check.